This is a business radio show where we talk about the craziness of small business. It's that craziness that actually makes it exciting, interesting, and totally unpredictable. This is Business Insanity Talk Radio with your host, Barry Maltz.
Well, welcome to this week's radio show. Remember, this is your final word in small business. For those keeping track, this is now show number 479. This episode, of course, is sponsored by Nextiva to fill all your needs of business communication solutions in the cloud. Well, wondering whether you should take that leap and start your own business? In this action-oriented autobiography, my next guest, Nigel Bennett, shares the many leaps he took on the way to becoming a successful entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a spouse, and a parent. Nigel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Barry. How you doing?
I love the subtitle of the book because it talks about take that leap, risking it all for what really matters. I think a lot of entrepreneurs saying, all right, I'm going to risk it all, but how do you figure out what I should be risking it for? A lot of folks will be saying, well, I'm risking it to make a lot of money, but perhaps in the end, that's not what really matters.
No, I've been doing this for many, many years, 35 years, and I found that, risking it all, it's not all about money in the end. It's all about our family and our friends and the time that we can spend with them. And so that's why I wrote the book.
A lot of folks would say, well, Nigel, that's probably easy for you because with, AquaGuard, you've been really successful and you've been financially able to make a lot of money. It's easier to say it's about your family when you've already been successful. What's your reply to those people that are still struggling?
Yeah, as entrepreneurs, we, from a startup phase all the way through to being a successful entrepreneur, we're always struggling no matter what. I mean, you just said that, successful, not always been successful. It's a really difficult road. And I think as entrepreneurs, we need to look at eventually making ourselves redundant in our own business and getting unstuck so we can do the things that we're working for, to spend time with our family. And, if we like to travel, we travel or whatever it is. But we need to make ourselves redundant. And I've learned a couple of lessons on how to do that.
Well, before you do that, I want to talk about this redundancy because I think for a lot of small business owners, they start by being the center of their business. It's hub and spoke. Everything works through them. And they have a hard time getting out of the middle, or when their business does grow, they still like to parachute in, as you say, to fix things when it gets really, really hot so they can make the difference. And that's a bad idea because if the business, as you know, Nigel, is all about you, you don't really have a business, you have a job. So how do you make yourself redundant in the business?
Yeah, I went through the same thing, through startup, it was really tough and, working all the time. And then I got to a point where I was just fed up and I would actually think about giving away my business for $1, and I'd rather go sell T-shirts on the beach.
You're going to go flip someone the keys, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did is I went and I hired a general manager from my competitor, brought him in, didn't work. And then I brought in another guy, called him a CEO, didn't work. I parachuted all these guys in, but all the while I had guys in my business. One guy in particular that was actually started as an 18-year-old sweeping the shop floor for us, worked his way up as an estimator, and then he was involved in finance. And organically, he grew inside the business, and I was completely blind to it. And eventually, now he's taken over running my whole business and given me the freedom that I've always wanted. But parachuting these hotshots in, for me, just never worked.
It's interesting because that's the natural reaction, Nigel, right? Because if they're successful at one of your competitors, you think they can be successful here, but we shouldn't overlook really mentoring and promoting people right from the start. Well, also in your book, you talk about, a lot of folks want to grow their business to sell it, but you think there's a different way that you have to really, resist that urge.
Yeah, again, with the whole thing, I want to sell my business, go sell T-shirts on the beach or whatever it may be. The urge to sell and get a bag of cash and then go sit on a beach with it. Over time, then what are you going to do? I found, I had a bit of an epiphany a few years ago. I was in the Amazon jungle. A long story. It's in my book. I was in the middle of selling my business to a large British firm, and I sat there in the jungle, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do when I sell it? And it came to me and said, hang on a second here. Why don't I just keep the business? It's throwing off cash. it's doing fairly well now. Why don't I keep it and leverage it and leverage all the contacts that I've made in all these, 20, 30 years that I've been doing this, and use the business as a platform to do good. And do good could be anything. It could be supporting, inner city, kids in Chicago, all the way to building, we got involved heavily in building homes for the homeless in Mexico. And we've been going down for, 15 years, taking my kids and getting everybody involved. And that's what I'm using the business for now. And I found that to be the best decision that I've ever made.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people that are selling their business, they go through the same thing like, okay, what happens the day after I sell it? What am I really going to do? Yeah. And I think you made interesting choices. Instead of selling it, you're using the profits from it to really pursue something that it really make a difference in the world. So it's almost like you have your cake and eat it too. You have this person running your business at the same time you have to sell it, and you're using the annuity from that business to go do something great. And of course, I've seen in Facebook, you're traveling all over the world.
Yeah, I know. I am. I mean, I was really fortunate, and one of the key things is to get this whole thing set up. I got a coach, and many years ago, I joined this thing called the Entrepreneurs Organization, which led me to a program at MIT, which you know about at MIT, called Birthing of Giants, and then it turned into this thing called Gathering of Titans. And the first guy that came up in front of me, his name is Vern Harnish, and he's a mentor for.
He's been on the show.
Vern, like he's like the guru of mentoring CEOs all over the world. And he said the very first thing he said was, "How many guys out in the audience?" And there were 75 of us in the room. "How many of you guys have a coach?" And I actually had a coach at the time. And I put my hand up gingerly. I stuck my hand up, and I looked around, and there was 3 of us in the room that had coaches. And Vern said to us, he said, "You guys are entrepreneurs. You guys, everybody out there needs a coach." And everybody looked around like, what the heck is this guy talking about? And Vern said, all the most successful entrepreneurs, from Steve Jobs to Michael Dell to, all these guys, they all have one or multiple coaches. So I worked with, my coach for many years in order to set my business up this way. And the one thing that I learned from my coach, he had a thing called Lick the Toad. And his name is Kevin Lawrence. He's out of Vancouver. And he said, lick the toad. What the heck is lick the toad? He said, every morning when you get up, lick the toad, okay? Lick the toad. Take care of the 3 ugliest things that you have to do today first thing. And you get into a rhythm. And things start to happen faster. You do this every day. And then, all this stuff just starts. It's amazing the power of, not procrastinating and getting things done. So hiring a coach for me was probably one of the most important things I've ever done, other than joining this entrepreneurs organization called EO.
As I talk to small business owners all over the world, they say the one thing that really makes a difference in their lives is to have a mentor or a coach. That is the primary thing.
Absolutely.
Because it is lonely at the top, Nigel. You can't do it by yourself.
It is.
And you need to have someone actually outside of your business to actually help you inside your business. So that's really important. Another thing you talk about in the book, he says, never substitute family time or life's advantage for a business crisis, right? Because, of course, the business crisis always come up when you're away, right? And you say that people will really step up the challenge. And I really found that as well, is that if you let people inside your organization step up the challenge, they will, instead of you just parachuting in.
Absolutely. There's always a crisis. Every day there's a crisis. And, I call it the doorknob effect. I go up to my business office, I put my hand on the door, and I go, oh my gosh, what is going to be happening inside my business today before I turn it and step through the door? And every day there's a crisis. So I found, when I was, younger in my business, my kids had, hockey games and soccer games, and you always feel the guilt as an entrepreneur. Oh, I've got a crisis. Can I go to the kids' hockey game? But I always went. And then as the kids got older, we did these family adventure trips, all over the world.
Same with us.
And, and it would be, and then I have an example here. So in 2010, there was the BP Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Remember that?
Yep.
So my business cleans up oil spills. And it came down that, hey, we got to be involved in this thing. And we were heavily involved in it. But I had a trip. I met this lady in my class in MIT called Lynn Twist. And she invited my whole family to go and spend time with the Oshawa tribe in the Amazon jungle. So what am I going to do? I've got this amazing family adventure plan, or do I stay? I went. I went to the Amazon, and I felt guilty. I came back. Guess what? My business was running fine. The guys, like you said, had stepped up and taken responsibility, and they also self-developed and became leaders inside my business without me. And over time, I kept doing this. And again, like licking the toad, the more you do this, the more it becomes easier and easier to do it. And so there's always crisis. There's always crisis.
Yeah.
But we have a life. We need to live our lives. And the most important thing in my life, anyway, is my family and my kids.
Well,
I've seen so many guys, it's really, it's a no-brainer, really.
Well, Nigel, the good news is with more offshore drilling that the Trump administration is allowing, they'll have plenty more opportunities to clean up oil spills. We got 30 seconds left. Where can people get in touch with you, and where can people get a copy of the book? Take that leap, risking it all for what really matters.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I really appreciate it. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to my website at nigeljbennett.com. Thanks a lot, Barry. I really appreciate the chat.
Nigel, thanks so much. This is AM 560 The Answer. We'll be right back.